Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name's David Susan, and this is Creating a Culture of Accountability, Diversity, and Inclusion. Hey, do me a favor, if you would, please raise your hand if you would love to have your employees more committed and more engaged. Put your hand up if you would love more committed and more engaged. Awesome. How about this? Raise your hand if you would love to be able to attract higher quality and more talent. Quick show of hands. Awesome. And how about this? Raise your hand if you would love your teams to be more productive, more productive. All right. And last but not least, raise your hand if you refuse to raise your hand, no matter what I say today. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Welcome, everyone. All right. So let's talk about the title here, Creating a Culture of Accountability. Let's start by talking about what I mean by accountability. Accountability, as defined in the dictionary, is the obligation or willingness to accept responsibility for one's actions, which is what probably brought you here today. So the question is, why do we want a culture of accountability, diversity, and inclusion? Well, here's the main reason that I have found in my research and from feedback from folks like you. They want better results, improved morale, more engagement. They'd love teams to work together better without the infighting. They want fewer problems, and they would love to retain and attract talent. Well, folks, I'm going to tell you, to do this, it is not rocket science. In fact, I'm going to give you the answer right now. And after I give the answer, if you don't want to stay the rest of the day, you don't have to, because it's a simple solution. Number one, all you have to do is model accountability. What does accountability look like? Model it yourself. Number two, set clear expectations and goals for your people. They want to know what's expected of them and what the goal is. Number three, communicate with your team. Make people aware. Share information. Don't keep it in silos. Give your employees meaningful work. Create opportunity for growth. Fair pay for what they do, right? Be competitive. And hold others accountable. So if someone on the team is not pulling their weight, you hold them accountable. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the answer. I just saved you 40 minutes. How about? No, I'm just kidding. Here's the reality. Creating accountability and an environment of diversity and inclusion is very simple, but it's not easy. It's not as easy as just saying, hey, do these 5 things, 6 things, and you're good. You know, that'd be like me saying to you, oh, do you want to lose weight? It's so easy. All you do is eat less, exercise more. You want to get fit, eat right, exercise more. Okay, if everything was so easy in our life, we know the prescription. I've read journal after journal, study after study, research after research, and everyone talks about those 6 bullet points in some manner or another. But every major company across the world, well, let's talk UK and USA, still struggles with it. It's not that easy. So the question is, why do traditional methods fail? Because it's a Band-Aid approach to a deeper problem. And so what I want to talk about today is root cause and how we resolve it. And I want to start by sharing a couple of stories that really impacted me. But in my research and my work with clients and my coaching that I do, it's the most common type of comment and thing I hear. So this was an article. This was someone who posted in BuzzFeed. And I'm going to read it to you if it's hard to see there. My 4-year-old had COVID. After staying home during mandatory quarantine, I returned to work and my boss asked me, what are you going to do to make sure this never happens again? How do you think she felt? Ready to quit. You really think she's going to want to work harder? Probably not. Or how about this? I was interviewing one of my clients, and when he first came to me, I started working with him. And he said he got a call on Friday afternoon, and he heard that his dad was rushed to the hospital. He goes to his boss and says, boss, I got to leave early. And you know what the boss says? All right, whatever, just go. He comes back Monday morning. Did his boss ask, hey, how's your dad? Everything okay? Did he die? Is he still alive? Is he in the... No. You know, his boss said, hey, where's that report I was waiting on? So I happened to talk to this gentleman on that day. And he goes, you know, if you would have asked me if I wanted to quit my job last week, I would have said no. Today, I'm starting to look for a new job. I've already got feelers out there. Or here's my situation. I worked in a tech company, and my boss comes to me, it's the fourth quarter of the year, and my boss says to me, you better perform better, you better hit your goals, because if you don't, I'm not going to get my bonus. Really? You don't really care about me. You're not trying to help me get there. You only care about yourself. So here's the thing. Even though all these companies may implement all of these amazing ideas that I've researched, we're still failing. And what's happening is, because of the way people are being treated, the environment, the culture that is being created, all of these key Band-Aid approaches are causing what is called quiet quitting. Old term was disengagement. Quiet quitting is defined as doing the minimum requirement of one's job and putting no more time, effort, or enthusiasm than is absolutely necessary. It means getting by. And when people are now working remote, about 50% of the world, especially in the UK and USA, are working remote, what we're finding is half of those people, in a study by Gallup, but it's very comparable in the UK, half of the US workforce consists of quiet quitters, meaning they're just showing up. So how accountable are they? What I'm finding in my research is that they will do just enough to get by. If they're not being micromanaged, accountability, if they're not having a report, they're going on walks, they're going on bike rides, they're doing just enough to get by unless there's an issue, and then they squeak through. Well, we don't want that. What we want is employees that are committed. So what I want to do is tell you a little bit about an individual I met a number of years ago. So Marilyn was 23 years old. She got promoted to be a manager in her company, one of the youngest in the entire city. So she takes over, she basically is right out of college, and she takes over a very diverse team. So she has people that are old, people that are young, all ethnicities, all walks of life, right? Single parents, divorced, married, well, you name it, she's got it all. And what happens is, after a very short amount of time, relative amount of time for her experience, she becomes the #1 division in the company. Everyone wants to go work for Marilyn. Her team is cohesive. She doesn't have to micromanage them. They're willing to do their job. They're excited to do their job. They work late. They work overtime and not even asked to get paid. So the regional office gets wind of this and goes, okay, this is incredible. Whatever you are doing is remarkable. We have another location that is struggling. It's one of our larger locations, and what we'd like to do is move you. So they move her to another location, and guess what? Same thing. All of a sudden, they move to be the #1 in the region. And again, everyone wants to work for Marilyn. Everyone is cohesive. Everyone is accountable. It's incredible. So regional office, right, comes to her again. This is over a period of a few years. They come to her again, and they go, okay, we have a bottom performing location. We need to turn it around. Marilyn, can we move you again? She says, absolutely. I'm a team player. She does. And guess what happens? Again. And again, #1. This is incredible. All right, fast forward. She's 28 years old. She's working at a new company. Again, one of the youngest managers. It's a major corporation here in the United States. She inherits a team. And when I say inherits a team, boy, you talk about diversity, you talk about the mix of people, all ethnicities, religions, politics, age, walks of life. One of the guys that works for her is the old curmudgeon, right? Been with the company 30 years. He's kind of in the twilight years, but he knows it all, right? He knows it all. He's like, no 28-year-old punk kid is going to come in and tell me what to do. Well, guess what? She ends up becoming one of the top performing managers in the company. She's written up in the company newsletter. The performance is stellar. Again, everyone wants to go work for Marilyn. What do I need to do to get on your team? Her employees go tell their friends who are looking for work, you got to work for Marilyn. Now, listen to this. They don't tell their worst friends. They don't tell the desperate friends. No one would ever do that to Marilyn. They only tell the people that are the top performers, that they believe are of the caliber that would fit in an organization like Marilyn's, where there truly is accountability, diversity, and this inclusive environment where everyone is treated and valued fairly. The old curmudgeon, best manager I've had in 30 years, and he submitted a letter to the corporate office for inclusion in their quarterly newsletter. And people are saying, I'll do anything. I want to make Marilyn happy. I'll work overtime. I'll do anything. It's incredible. So I'm a little slower than Marilyn. It took me a little bit longer to get my first promotion. My background is electrical engineering and computer science. I started my career at IBM. I went to a high growth company called PTC. They're a global tech company. They were at the time the most profitable software company in the world. And I finally get moved to a new company, and I get promoted to my first management job ever. Well, coming out of a technical background, and I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I had never been managed. I was never mentored. So I knew Marilyn, and I called Marilyn, and I said, Marilyn, you got to help me. I have no clue. I just got this promotion. I've never managed before. Okay, so Marilyn, could you help me out? So could you tell me, what are some of the key books you've read? What are some of the seminars, workshops you've done that taught you how to be such a good manager? She says, none. I've never read a book on leadership. I've never read a book on management. What? Okay, no. Okay, so hang on. You got to tell me, there's some secrets here. I'm sure there's something you're doing. What are you doing? She goes, I don't know. What? Okay, you've had multiple locations, multiple companies, and you have phenomenal success. I don't get it. How have you done this? And I said, could you at least give me an example maybe of something you've done that could illustrate maybe how you manage? She says, actually, Dave, there was a situation. I had an employee come to me and she says, Marilyn, I'm so sorry. She says, my kid is sick. And I have tried everything for the last 2 hours. I've tried to find backup. I've called my parents. I've called friends. I've called neighbors. There's no one that can take my kid. I got to pick him up from school. He's not well. And Marilyn, I don't want to have to leave the job. And Marilyn says, go, leave, go take care of your kid. Do what you have to do. I go, wait, no, hang on, Marilyn, what? You just told your employee to leave? Yeah. Marilyn, no. Okay, if you start doing that, you are setting a precedent, Marilyn, that people are just going to come up to you and go, oh, my kid is sick. I got to go home. I'm not. She says, no. It's actually the opposite, David. They work harder for me. They're more committed. They're more accountable. I said, what? I go, this is like 180 degree from what I've ever read and understand. I said, no, you can't do that. You have to have accountability. You have to. She says, no. She says, Dave, in fact, if I were to really think about it, and I had to put one word on how I manage in my secret sauce, she says to me, it would be, I have empathy for my employees. And I said, oh, empathy, you mean you put yourself in their shoes? She says, no, that's not empathy. I said, what? Yeah, she said, David, if you put yourself in their shoes, who's in their shoes? I said, you are. She said, and that's the problem. When you put yourself in their shoes, you now step over, you're in their shoes, and you're seeing the world not through their eyes, but through your eyes. And you're saying, well, this is what I would have done. I would have had a backup. I would work harder. I would be more accountable. I would treat people. That's what you would do. She said, true empathy is being them in their shoes. It's seeing the world through their eyes. Because what she said to me is this. She said, you know, David, we're not managing robots. We're managing people. And she said, this is what makes working with people difficult and different. Because everyone comes from a different life, different experiences, different challenges. We're not perfect, we're human. And so the problem is you're trying to see the world the way you see it. But when you start to see it through their lens, the fact that maybe someone has kids and you don't, the fact that someone is now caring for their aging parents that live in their house, their spouse or child just got COVID or hit by a car, they're grieving the loss. They have life, have empathy to their life. So, ladies and gentlemen, I copied what Marilyn told me. It was 180 degrees. I couldn't believe it. It was like, this is not anything I've ever experienced from any of my managers. And I had plenty, but I never felt as committed. I never felt like telling people, oh, you got to go work for this person. I never felt that there was this openness about diversity. It was more backstabbing. It was more every person for themselves. So I took a shot and I said, all right, you know what? I'm not stupid. I'm going to do what Marilyn did and let's see if it works. It's counterintuitive, but my first management job, I became the #1 manager in the United States for our company. My team was all top performers, and all my employees, in fact, I got the notice I had to lay them off because we financially struggled a number of years later. And I said, you guys, it's time to get your resume together. And you know what they said to me? Are you looking for a job yet? I said, no. They said, then we're going down with the ship. We're not going to leave you high and dry. That's commitment. That's accountability. And the way they treated each other, we're talking about inclusion in the world. So I moved on, and a number of years later, I started seeing patterns. And I started wanting to really understand this more, to really be able to bring this kind of information to you. And so what I did is I started studying more about people and life and careers and what people do. And so as I started studying, I had the opportunity to interview thousands of people. And one of the questions I would ask people if they were willing to quit a job, whenever they said, yep, I'm willing to quit, I'm looking, I'd be willing if there was a better opportunity. I said, why? And the #1 answer, I hate my boss. I go, what do you mean you hate your boss? Hate my boss. You mean it's not about the money, it's not about the goals, it's not about opportunity? #1 reason, hate. And I said, what do you mean? They treat me like crap. They don't care about me. They don't value me. I'm a commodity to them. Now, when I asked the question, and people would say, nope, never would quit. Love it. #1 answer, love my boss. Love your boss. They literally said the word love. What do you mean by love your boss? You love your boss? Yeah, love my boss. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? You love your boss. And they said, they value me. They take care of me. They treat me right. And I'm like, huh. A number of years later, I interviewed this gentleman. Name was Alex. Alex, relatively young. He worked in a tech company. And I said, Alex, how do you like your job? He goes, love it. It's great. And I said, how's the pay? And he said, you know, the pay is really good. And I said, but, you know, I'm really underpaid compared to the market. If I change jobs, I could probably have a better opportunity, a better job. And I said, well, why don't you? And I said, well, how much more money could you make being in tech? He goes, probably about 20 grand in this city. I go, well, why don't you quit? He goes, no, love my boss. I go, what do you mean? Same thing. Coaches me, brings me up, values me, and he's not willing to quit for it. As I went on and I interviewed people, I'd say to them, so what's the hardest part of managing? When I would talk to managers, And the number one answer these managers would give me as I'm interviewing managers, not the employees, the hardest part of managing and leading? People. Every answer. That's the number one answer I get. The hardest part of managing, and you know what they go? Oh my gosh, they're not accountable. It's like I'm a babysitter. They don't work hard. These younger people, they're entitled. The old people, they just want to retire. They're lazy. They have no sense of urgency, blah, 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 blah. And what I started seeing is a pattern, folks, where leaders and managers were always blaming the employees. The reality is, folks, they're people and they're not machines. You can't just turn them on and they work and reprogram them. See, they're people, not machines. You know, it's so funny. I think we always look at humans, people, employees, and go, well, they should just change. They should just work harder. They should just be more accountable. They should just. It reminds me of someone who buys a cat, and then you go to the dog park with your cat, and you want the cat to play with all the other dogs. And oh, wouldn't it be fun? You take your cat, you go on a 2-3 mile run. Oh, that'd be amazing. And then, you go to the park and you throw a ball or a frisbee, and the cat goes and catches it and brings it. Oh, that would be so much fun. And wait a minute, kind of sounds like you're wanting a dog. You can't turn a cat into a dog, can you? Now, if it's really not a fit, you swap it out, right? And I'm not saying you don't get rid of employees that are really not performing. What I'm saying is it's almost impossible to have a perfect team. I had a gentleman say to me, I'm only going to hire the best. I'm only going to hire the most accountable. I'm only going to hire the people that respect everyone. Like, really? Show me one company where that works. Think about sports, right? Football. Is there any one team that has every single player that's perfect? No, you can't afford them. Why do you think you're so special if you're a coach that you can get every best player to come to your team? No, you can't. So you have to work with what you have. That's the reality of humans. So what I want to share with you is this. The only way we're going to make change is by making change. And if you do what you've always done, you're always going to get the same results you've always had. Or as Einstein says, it's the definition of insanity. If we want more accountability, if we want people to be more inclusive, more accountable, we as leaders have to do something different. So the solution is really taking 180 degree. And so what I want to do is share with you 3 simple steps that you can employ. And I wrote it down as an acronym so you can put this in your notes. And if all you remember is be an MVP, be an MVP. M stands for mindset, V means value them, P means push them up. Let's talk about mindset. When I talk about being an MVP and I say, okay, mindset, I'm talking about the mindset you create for your team, your organization, the company, and your own personal mindset about leadership. The first part is for your team. The title of today's talk is Creating a Culture of Accountability. It's creating a culture. And the word is creating a culture, creating. If we don't create a culture for our team, our organization, our company, a culture will get created automatically, normally dysfunctional. So what we need to do is take the time to define what is the culture of our team? What is the culture of our organization? So that means creating a culture of ownership, accountability. Everyone is accountable. You have ownership of what you do, and we create that culture. It means we have a culture of respect, respect for the individual. You respect each other, I respect you, you respect me. We create respect, and we demonstrate it, we illustrate it, we manage to it. And we create a culture of having a specific work ethic that's specific to you, your team, your organization. But number one, it starts with you. You be the culture. You are first. Your executives are first. You be the culture. You set the example. You treat people right. You give them ownership. You do hold them accountable, but you also can't be the one that's coming in late, leaving early, and your employees look at you like maybe you're lazy. Maybe you're in the wrong role if that's you. Now, on the flip side, you have to understand, maybe you're a workhorse. You don't have family. You don't have kids. You're willing to go at, 100 miles an hour. Right. That's why you're the manager. You're the leader. You're the owner. If they were that hard a worker, they wouldn't be working for you. They'd be doing the same thing somewhere else as a leader. So understand, they're people, not robots. You can't just amp them up. You have to say, okay, I have a dog, I have a cat. Let's work with what we have. Now, the second part of mindset in the MVP model is adjusting our own mindset about how we view leadership. And by this, I mean, really think about leadership. I want to ask you a question, and it's kind of tough to do in this environment here, but in your head, you can answer. What was your first exposure to leadership or management? Think about that for a minute. What's your very first exposure ever to leadership? Your first exposure ever in your life? Probably when you were a child. And it was your parents. And if you think about it, how did most parents parent? Go to bed by this time. Behave this way. Or else. Be back by curfew. Or else. For the most part, that's how most people in the world have been managed. A little bit of intimidation, a little bit of threat, sometimes bribery. What was your next exposure to leadership? Not your parents. Your next exposure was probably what? Teachers, coaches. Yeah, what happened if you played sports and you showed up late? You didn't do it right. Run more laps, punishment. What happens if you didn't behave in class? Detention. What was your next exposure to leadership and management? Your first boss. Oh, question. Where did your boss learn leadership? Here and here. And most of us grew up and experienced a level of intimidation, a level of threat, what I call zingers. Nice, 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 zinger. Oh, you're awesome, you're awesome, you're awesome. You're crud. And every time we have a zinger, like, really? You're going to leave early on a Friday just because your dad's in the hospital? Really? Those are zingers. It only takes one to turn an employee into a quiet quitter. So what's the new mindset? Taking full responsibility for coaching your employees, taking responsibility to mentor and develop your employees. Now, I know what you're thinking. Every client, all my clients I train and coach with, they all say the same thing. Dave, wait a minute. I don't have time for that. I'm busy. I have my own job to do. Well, wait a minute. You're a manager or a leader? What is your job? Really, your job is to get work done through others, like a conductor or a coach. See, the conductor and the coach, they're not doing the work. If they could do the work, you don't need a team. If a conductor could play 40 instruments at the same time, they would. They can't. The conductor's job is to make sure everyone is doing their job in unison. A coach is not on the field running and throwing and kicking and no. What are they doing? They put the right team together, the right people, the right position, the right place, and their job is to make sure it all comes together in unity. Remember, we're managing people, not robots. Now, I know also what you're thinking. Go, hang on, Dave, hang on. Wait, Dave. No. You know what? Okay. They're lucky to have a job. I don't need to do that. They're lucky to have a job. I've been married 30 years. I got married when I was 2. So I've been married 30 years. Can you imagine me going to my wife and saying, oh, honey, 30 years together, this has been absolutely incredible. You know, honey, I have to tell you this. You are so lucky that I chose you. You're so lucky to be with me. You're lucky I'm still with you. No, I would be out the door. But that's what we do to our employees. That doesn't create accountability. That's threat. That's intimidation. They're quiet quitters at that point. They're not giving their all. They're just getting by to pay their bills. I don't want that as a leader. I want my employees to be like Marilyn's. I want them to do everything. Employees like volunteers. Now, what do I mean, treat them like a volunteer? Raise your hand if you've ever volunteered at an organization. Put your hand up if you volunteered at organizations. Okay, so think about this. Why do people volunteer? Why do they volunteer for, I don't know, maybe, Cancer Society type thing or hospice? Why? They believe in the mission? They care about that mission? Wait, they're not getting paid, are they? No, you're a volunteer. Okay, let me ask you this. If the person that is guiding the organization, the person that you are working with, is a total jerk to you, why would you stay? Well, that organization better have a lot of meaning to you, but most likely, if it was such a miserable experience volunteering, you'd go volunteer somewhere else. So let me ask you a question. Why would you stay? Well, you'd stay because of the mission, but you'd also stay because you feel valued and you're doing something that matters and you're leveraging your strength. Well, think about that. You're not getting paid. You're voluntarily working hard, doing the job, staying committed and accountable in this organization because you're valued. So if you treat your employees and imagine you're running a volunteer organization, what you would do is you would think about leadership in a different way. See, you can't fire a volunteer. You can't threaten them. So we inspire them, don't we? How do I get people to come work for free? You inspire them. So what if you did that at your job? What if you thought, okay, they're all volunteers. I can't fire them. I can't threaten them. What would I do? I would inspire. I would motivate. That's changing mindset. Now, V stands for value them. And what do I mean by that? I want you to imagine that everyone in your organization that works directly for you or down the line from you, I want you to imagine that everyone has a giant S on their chest. What does that S stand for? Special. Everyone just wants to feel special. It comes from when we're very young. And when you can make people feel special, which is what Marilyn did, she made every single person feel special all the time. They are more committed and they will do anything for you. But you have to make them feel special. And I'll give you an idea on this. Before I do, though, I want to show you a picture that I just saw the other day. This is Esther Crawford. When Elon Musk took over Twitter, there was a picture that was posted all over social media of this woman who was so committed, she slept in a sleeping bag in her office. She was a manager, slept in a sleeping bag in her office. And it went all around social media because she was showing how committed she was to Elon Musk. And she got laid off anyway. So I'm on her Instagram feed. I was reading an article about her, and I'm on her Instagram feed, and I see this picture, and this was written by a very good friend of hers. It says, "You're amazing and beautiful." And what caught my eye when I saw this is that's Esther taking a picture of what her friend wrote. Why does she care? Because that message made Esther feel special. Special enough that she posted it on social media to tens of thousands of people that follow her now. That's what people really want. So how do you make people feel special? Well, number one, thank them for their service. Be gracious, be thankful that they're working for you and not some other tech company. Be grateful they show up every day on time. Be grateful that they're contributing their strengths. And then recognize the fact that they are committing more time to you than their family. See, if you think about it, employees wake up, let's say they need to be at work at 8 a.m. They're waking up at maybe 6 if they're commuting. If they work from home, that's totally different. But let's say they have to commute. They might wake up at 6, get ready for work, commute into work. They're there by 8 a.m. They clock out at 5 o'clock. They commute home an hour if they're commuting. Of course, if they're in their bathrobe, it's a 2-minute commute. But if they're physically commuting, the time they wake up, get ready, commute, work, commute home, on average, I've calculated it's about 11 hours, And even if it's not 11 hours, we're talking 8 to 11. Do you realize that is more time with you and your team and the mind share of you and your team than their own family, their kids, their spouse? So thank them and appreciate the fact that they're giving their time to you. Focus on their strengths. In a volunteer organization, they're well run when they say, what are you really good at? And oftentimes I know in tech, we go, well, they're really good at Java, they're really good at full stack. But what do they love that they're good at? And is it possible to reorg and put people where their strengths are? Because when you do, they're more committed, they work harder, and they'll do more for you. Now, change is not easy. Everyone, take a look at this. I want you to notice something. Take a look at this. You see it? Do you all notice something? You see the G is missing, right? Yeah, a woman came to me, this is a number of years ago, a client of mine, and she came home and she says, she's sharing a story about her son was 5 years old, came home from school one day and does this. Mommy, 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 I'm so excited. I wrote the alphabet for the first time. Look, mommy. And he shows it to mommy, and mommy looks at it and she looks at it and she goes, oh, but honey, you missed a letter. Joy went to sorrow. This child was so excited. She told me, she goes, and all of a sudden I said one thing, and she didn't focus on the 25 he got right. Oh, honey, this is incredible. Look how well you did. But don't we do that with employees? We zap them. We don't focus on what they do right on a regular basis. We do once in a blue moon, but we focus on everything that's wrong with them. And why is this hard? There's a part of the brain called the reticular activating system. It goes on high alert to find what we focus on. If our mindset is all about finding errors and problems, we find more errors and problems. Now, in some roles, that can be very valuable, but it's hard to change. An example of this is you buy a new car and you start noticing everyone has the same car. You know what I'm talking about? They have the same car. They have the same car. Everyone's got the same car. Right? That's the RAS, right? So what I've learned from this is you get what you look for. You get what you look for. So if you look for good in what your employees are doing, you find them doing things right. You find when they're being fair and they're respectful of others and they're being accountable to each other and accountable to themselves. And you highlight this, it brings out more of it, and you even start to notice it more. The other thing you can do to value your employees, really understand what their interests are. Take a personal, true interest in their life and their family. And I know every book you've ever read and said, don't do this, don't get close to your employees, don't send them birthday cards, don't send them a, hey, thank you, been here for a year. Don't send them a anniversary card that says, hey, congratulations on you and your spouse. That's what everyone else says. No. See, Marilyn did all this. This was her secret sauce. She had empathy and she valued her employees. She even thanked the spouses. Thank you so much for supporting your employee when they work late with me. That means a lot to me, and I want to thank you because I know they could not work late if you are not caring for your family while they're here. Of course, then that spouse is like, you better never quit Marilyn. And take time to find a way to reward them. Find little things, right? One person I knew gave T-shirts out. They were silly. That's the one I copied. It worked. It was amazing. You celebrate success. You'd give a $5 T-shirt or a pair of goofy socks or a traveling trophy or a plant that goes around. Celebrate, reward them, and also recognize the fact that they're people, not robots, and life happens. A friend of mine had to have surgery on her elbow, and her boss, she's all drugged up on codeine and painkillers. It was a horrible surgery. And 2 days later, her boss says, well, when are you going to be back in? Can you jump on a conference call? She's like, she did it because she thought she was going to get fired. Talk about disengagement, quiet quitting. This is a great article that I read from Gartner. And it's a quote, and I'm going to read it to you in case you can't see it. The era of employment contract where the worker provided service purely for money is over. That's old days. Employees want a human employment value proposition. They want employers to recognize their value and provide value at a human level. Remember, folks, they're people, not robots. Now, you might think, Marilyn is a one-off. No, Quinn is a client of mine. She's a director at a large company. She came in brand new, did the exact same thing Marilyn did. She has had nothing but accolades. She called me Tuesday night of this week, a couple nights ago, and she said, my senior executive brought me in and said, I have 5 different senior VP positions for you to choose from. Which one do you want? You're so valuable. She's been at the company a year and a half. Everyone wants to work for Quinn. She believes in respect and valuing and creating a safe environment. It even works in the military. This is Mike Abrashoff. He's the commander of the USS Benfold. The Benfold was the worst performing ship ever in the history of the United States Navy. 18 months later, he turned it around. The ragtag crew of 300 men who had no accountability, they didn't have a connection. There was diversity, but no inclusion, right? And they infighting and backstabbing. 18 months later, he became the #1 commander in the history. It became the #1 battleship in 18 months in the history of the United States Navy. This just happened probably in the last 20 years, folks. And he's written books. It's an incredible. And as you read his story, he did what Marilyn did. He valued his people. He created a culture. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, but Dave, look. I don't want to get close to my employees. I'm not sending them birthday cards and holiday cards, and I may have to reprimand them. Well, what I always say is, hey, have you ever had to reprimand a friend or significant other? What happens? Well, we just kind of argue and work through it, right? You can do that with an employee too. You can have open dialogue and be really not confrontational, but you can have a dialogue and say, look, I'm concerned. This is what I did to Mike. Mike was one of my employees, and I said, Mike, I don't know if this job is right for you. I'm kind of sensing you're not really engaged, and I'm happy to give you a referral and help you find a new job. And he goes, no, that's not what I want. I go, what's going on? And we had an open dialogue. He turned out being a top performer. I hired him at my second company, and he's gone on now to be extremely successful in his career. So I'm going to give you a quick tip if you do have to reprimand. Remember this, LB and NT. Go ahead and write that down, LB and NT. It's a great way to reprimand. It's not reprimanding. LB means like best. NT is next time. Instead of saying what people are doing wrong and what you don't like, say, this is what I like best about everything you've done on this project. It's incredible. Next time, this is how you move up from where, right? So imagine on a scale of 1 to 10, there are 6. Hey, what did you do to get to a 6? Great, what do we need to move up to get to a 10? It's not everything you did wrong, because that's not instructional. It's not saying what I need to be doing. You're just saying what I shouldn't have done. Well, look, if I knew better, I would have done better. So NT is, here's how you do it better next time. The last one, P, push your people up. What does that mean? It means take time to meet with your employees. A Gallup organization did a study, and they recommend that you invest 15 to 30 minutes a week with each employee. You take time to understand where they're at, what's going on in their life, what their struggles are. You understand their goals, where they want to be, and you pull them up. Now, I know the biggest problem in most companies today is, no, I don't want my employee to pass me. They want my job. They want my job. I got to hold them down. I got to hold them down under my thumb. But here's the reality. What if you were the one that helped them surpass you? What if you were the one that made them the superstar? See, they may be the next Elon Musk. They're leaving you anyway. They may be the next Bill Gates. They're going to leave you anyway eventually. Maybe you're stuck. You can't move. You have family. Kids are in school. But they're mobile. They're the next CEO at some company. So why wouldn't you want to take responsibility and help them grow? Because a rising tide lifts all boats. And they'll remember you. And they'll pull you along when they move on. Now, I know a lot of what I've shared with you today, and as we come to a close here, I know many of you are thinking, oh, I already know all this. This is just common sense. Now, it's a really good reminder, Dave. What I always say is this: are you doing it? It takes work. It's not easy. And the reality is, folks, it's not what you know, it's what you do with what you know. So it means making this a part of your daily life. When I'm coaching my clients, just like if you're coaching a golf star, you don't just give them one lesson and then they go. It's constant reminders and changing your mindset, because we're human. This is not easy. It takes a lot of work because we have to let go of the ego. And that's what holds most of us back and most of my clients back. You may be thinking, but Dave, I'm in a different situation. I don't run a battleship. And is it going to work for me? It does. I've seen it work in every kind of organization. I've been studying this the last 20 years, folks. I've been in tech. I've worked with manufacturers. I've worked with software companies. I've seen it work everywhere, every type of industry. So imagine that you have improved engagement and accountability. People treat each other with respect, increased morale. Your people say you're the greatest manager ever, and they start sending high quality candidates to you, and you and your organization get a reputation for being the best. That's what I want for you. And you create a team that will follow you into battle, just like they did for Maryland. So what I'm going to challenge you today, folks, is commit to making a change. Get started now, and just remember MVP. Ladies and gentlemen, that was my time. I want to thank you so much for being with me today. We have time for a couple questions, or you can always email me with questions or reach out to me. If there's any questions, go ahead and put them in the question box if you haven't already done that. And I know we only have a couple minutes here. So let me take a look and see if there are any questions. Any questions, anyone? And I may not be able to see your questions, so if I may have to have the moderator help me out. Let's see. All right. Folks, is there anything else? And I'm trying to, let me see. Raise your hand if there's any questions, anything you need to answer. Thank you all for the nice comments, Keith, Mala, awesome. LinkedIn is the best way to find me. And just go, you'll find my name on there, David Susan. I think there's only one, S-U-S-O-N. I had a cousin, he passed away, he had the same name, but he was older than I am. All right, no questions? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to wish you the absolute best. I hope you have a phenomenal rest of your time. I wish I could have been with you. My whole family ended up getting COVID. I got it a few weeks back, then my wife, then my daughter, then my mother-in-law. I wish I could have been with you, so I hope I'm able to be back with you in person next year. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your conference. See you, folks. And there's my contact info if you need me. Go ahead and copy it down, and feel free to email me if I can do anything to help you. All right.